ABC 10 News at 7 starts now.
Nearly 10,000 San Diegans went back to work last month, but employers in our hardest hit fields continue to struggle to fill jobs. Good evening. I'm Kimberly Hunt. Steve has the night off. ABC 10 News reporter John Horn digs into why the rebound of the workforce isn't so appealing for some San Diegans.
Johan Engman has a message for those who dine out in San Diego.
If you do notice that the food takes a little longer and staff seem to be scrambling around, it's not because we don't care. It's not because we want to give you bad service. It's because we're extremely understaffed.
Engman's restaurant group runs the Breakfast Republic chain, which has 46 openings in the back of the house alone. He says they've tried all sorts of things to entice workers, including upping the pay, but takers are few.
We are checking every single box there is.
Managers in San Diego's hospitality field have reported difficulties hiring, only becoming more dire now that the region is in the orange tier and restrictions are lifting. On Friday, the state reported that San Diego County's unemployment rate was 6.9% in March, with nearly 108,000 San Diegans losing their jobs in the last year. And yet, for many, there is not a rush to find work.
We're all trying to hire people. It's just the job market right now is really tough for the employers.
Federal stimulus is boosting unemployment checks by $300 a week. Some workers have moved away or retrained, while others are waiting to be vaccinated. On Friday, Governor Newsom signed a bill to require some hotels, event centers, and airport and building service providers to give their previously laid-off workers first dibs on new jobs, which the city already requires for some similar businesses. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
In March, the San Diego City Council renewed that rehiring ordinance. The San Diego County Lodging Association is challenging it in court, saying that it was not consulted and it limits their ability to hire quickly in an ever-changing environment. Thousands of local students went back to the classroom this week, and plans are already in motion for summer school. It will give students a chance to catch up after falling behind this past year with virtual learning. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer De La Cruz explains how districts plan to make up for lost time.
The San Diego Unified School District says between 5 and 10% of their students are failing every class. They credit that learning loss to struggles with distance and hybrid platforms throughout the pandemic. So this summer, they're hoping to fix that.
We see the summer as, the beginning of our efforts, to get students back on track.
School Board President Richard Barrera says their summer program that's usually reserved for high schoolers will be fully revamped to address the needs of all students. Programs will run for 4 weeks for elementary and middle school and 3 weeks for high school. They'll consist of morning learning and afternoon activities. Students can either make up credits or take classes to get ahead.
Swim camps to arts and music, science camps, internships for high school students.
While there are options for every age, Barrera says just a few short weeks of summer school simply won't be enough.
But that work is going to have to go on throughout the entire school year next year as well.
In El Cajon, the Cajon Valley Union School District received national recognition for pioneering what learning looks like in a pandemic from the start. This summer, they're launching Camp Cajon.
We want to emphasize the use of outdoor recreation, enrichment, field trips, giving students opportunities that they have missed out on.
Assistant Superintendent Karen Minshew says they're focusing on both academics and enrichment for their K-8 students. They've partnered with local soccer clubs and Parks and Rec to bring sports and art programs directly to their campuses.
We can be better prepared for next year, but this is a long-term plan. It has to be based on growth and fun, positivity, and all the amazing strengths and gifts of our students.
Jennifer De La Cruz, ABC 10 News.
Both San Diego Unified and Cajon Valley plan to start their summer programs in late June. And while some children have adjusted going back to school, data shows many students have not. We spoke to a child and educational psychologist who said she is seeing more children with anxiety attacks. She recommends having your child practice taking deep breaths or contacting a professional. Rady Children's Hospital has also seen a spike in emergency room visits related to mental health. Those numbers have increased by 7% since last July.
We have an increase in suicide ideations, thoughts, because they're feeling isolated.
Experts say it is important for parents and teachers to help children prioritize their mental well-being every day. If you or anyone you know needs help, there is someone to talk with 24 hours a day at Access and Crisis Line. That number right there on your screen. Here are the latest numbers on coronavirus in San Diego County. More than 300 cases were reported today, bringing our total to more than 274,000. And there were 9 more COVID-related deaths. More than 3,600 San Diegans have died from the virus. Researchers have just launched a late-stage clinical trial on a new kind of COVID-19 vaccine, one that's grown in plants. They're looking for volunteers here in San Diego. ABC 10 News anchor Derek Stahl is going in depth on what you may call the world's first vegan vaccine.
Medicago's manufacturing facility looks like a nursery, but inside these plants, they're growing a new kind of vaccine, one that's now being tested in volunteers around the U.S., including in San Diego.
They can grow this material very fast.
Dr. Dennis Tarakchian is leading the local arm of the trial at the Medical Center for Clinical Research.
It's a 2-shot administration 21 days apart.
He says this vaccine doesn't need to be frozen like the ones from Pfizer and Moderna, so it's easier to transport and store. It's refrigerated at the same temperatures as the shot from Johnson & Johnson, but it uses entirely different technology. The vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna contain little bubbles of genetic instructions that prompt your cells to make a fragment of the virus. Instead of a fragment, Medicago uses plants to grow particles that look like the entire coronavirus. Just check it out under a microscope.
The whole point is that it looks like a virus to your immune system so that you develop a really nice, robust response against it. But it is not a virus. So in and of itself, it cannot cause disease.
The technology is called a virus-like particle. The FDA approved the first vaccines using the platform in the 1980s for hepatitis B. But the big breakthrough happened in the late 2000s when regulators licensed 2 vaccines for human papillomavirus, or HPV, says Dr. Peter Chin-Hong of UC San Francisco.
In the HPV world, it's done wonders. It's gone gangbusters, more than 90% efficacy in HPV, so they're hoping that it will do the same in COVID.
Medicago says its COVID vaccine could become the first of its kind grown in plants. Past virus-like particle vaccines were grown in bacteria or yeast. A small phase 1 study found this COVID vaccine produced 10 times as many antibodies compared to people infected with the real coronavirus. The challenge now will be enrolling enough volunteers for a 30,000-person trial. Anyone 16 and up can now book a vaccination appointment in California.
Just because we have something today doesn't necessarily mean we can't find something better tomorrow.
Dr. Tarakchian says we need as many vaccine options as possible to fight off variants.
It's an opportunity for you to be a part of a cutting-edge technology and be the solution to a problem that is devastating this whole world.
Derek Stahl, ABC 10 News.
For this phase 3 study, researchers are looking for adults 18 and older who have not been vaccinated and have not had COVID. Medicago teamed up with GlaxoSmithKline. They're hoping to complete the trial and submit results to regulators later this year. Soon, more San Diegans will be saying I do. The state is loosening restrictions on the wedding industry. Outdoor gatherings are now allowed up to 100 people. It can be 300 if everyone is fully vaccinated or shows a negative COVID test. Indoor weddings can have 150 people if everyone is vaccinated or tests negative. Masks are required. Local wedding planners say that couples are trying to adjust quickly to these new rules.
Can we have a dance floor now? Can we seat 8 people at our table instead of 6 people at our table? Can we stand during cocktail hour? How do we make that happen in the next 7 days?
Wedding organizers expect a wedding bonanza in San Diego in the fall of this year.